What we're going to look at today are first the basic of Qigong. What do we mean when we talk about Qigong? What is this? What are the basic principles that make an exercise Qigong and not just fitness or moving around? Other elements after we're going to look into is how to integrate those elements into one single movement. In order to talk about Qigong, we have to look at the three main components of it. What we call in Chinese the Jing, which can be referred in English as the structure of the body, the physical aspect, the very material aspect of the body. Then we have the Qi, the circulation of the energy through the body. And then we have the Shen, which is the state of higher consciousness or the meditative states. So when we talk about Qigong, we talk about the combination of those three elements together in one exercise. So we want to have the proper posture, which allow the Qi to flow, and the meditative state of mind that connects everything together. If we just have good structure, just like in many different sports, to do a good movement, you need to have a proper structure, but you don't necessarily need the feeling of Qi or the meditative state in order to perform properly. The same way that when you do meditation, you can have a fairly good posture and just being seated without necessarily moving a lot of energy. You can be just in a relaxed mental state, which is not quite the same. But when we want to have Qigong, we want also to have the feeling of energy that goes through it, that circulation that comes from the movement and not a use of the mind in order to move the energy. So the first element that we're going to look into is the posture. And in order to do that, we start with the feet. The idea being that if you ever had a cupboard where the door didn't close properly, you can fiddle with it for a long time and still not be able to get the door to close. But if you adjust the legs, the contact to the ground, so that they become level, then everything starts to align itself almost on its own. You don't have to do anything. So our contact to the ground, our feet, we want to have them first parallel and place them about shoulder width apart. Shoulder width apart actually means that we want to be able to let our hip structure be able to go down freely. So that we don't have, if my feet are a bit closer, it's still doable, but it's a lot more difficult to be able to go. If I'm too wide, then I can only go so low and it blocks. So I want to keep just a comfortable position for me. Feet parallel, shoulder width apart, knee slightly bent, in order to keep the hip structure straight. Just like if I had a bench and I was about to sit, so this way I can keep that element straight. Keeping the pelvis straight also allows for a deeper abdominal breathing. If my hips are a little bit tucked in and I try to breathe, my diaphragm is rapidly blocked. I can fill in a little bit in the front, but there's not much breathing happening in the lower back. If on the opposite, I rotate too much forward and then create tension and curvature in the lower back, then again the breathing is very limited. But when I place myself with the hips straight, at that point the diaphragm can easily push the organs lower, and that allows for that expansion front and back. So I invite you to play a little bit with this. You can place your hands on top of your hips and then just move your pelvis either forward or back and try to see where is the spot that you feel your breathing becomes deeper naturally. So if I go a little bit too much in front, you can feel the breathing here, but it doesn't really go lower. If I'm too much in the back, then it's even higher because there's too much tension. It doesn't work well. So slowly move it, readjust, until you can feel that sweet spot where naturally the breathing can go deeper. And what you can do is just place your hands with the index finger being at the height of the belly button, and then the other fingers a little bit more stretch on the side to see how deep your breathing can go. And you have your thumb that's in the lower back to see if the breathing expands all the way there as well. And again, you can play a little bit with the posture of the hips, of the pelvis, to try to find that nice sweet spot where everything breathes deeper. So as the diaphragm can push, the pressure of the organ expand front and back, and then from there we can move on to the more thoracic space. So let me backtrack a little bit actually. We're going back into the lower abdomen to talk a little bit about the position of the spine. So once my diaphragm can push the organ lower because the pelvis is properly placed, that pressure will also help to straighten a little bit the lumbar area. So normally the lumbar curves go inward, but as my diaphragm pushes on the organ, then they have that expansion which help to straighten a little bit that lumbar curvature. So as I'm breathing, I have a little push which help to reduce the lumbar curve, which will give kind of a sensation of expansion both upward from the middle of the lumbar curve all the way up, and downward towards the coccyx and the sacrum towards the feet. So from about the height of the belly button, when I breathe in, I have that extension of the body, feeling like if my feet were pushing more against the ground, and if the top of my head was starting to stretch upward. So as I breathe in, I relax the lower back, relax the lumbar, and feel that stretching going up. And as I exhale, just relax, and it might be coming back down a little bit. Inhaling, feeling the stretch. Exhaling, and just relaxing. So as I inhale, the expansion from the lower abdomen affect the structural aspect of the spine so that I feel that push towards the sky and then relaxing. So from that stretch of the spine, it allows the rib cage to be placed on top of the diaphragm. The spine really acts like the central column, what we can call the Tai Chi, the great axe, from which everything in the body is attached to and suspended. So if that axe is properly placed, then my rib cage can expand and relax as I exhale to allow a wider breathing around the thoracic area. So as I breathe in, feel the pressure on the lower back which stretch, and then the rib cage can open and kind of float on top of it. That allows to relax the shoulder as well. The arms can be sinking on the side and still feeling the head stretching and expanding upward. So as this structure places itself, I can try to find the proper alignment where my whole body can relax, because my bone structure stacks on top of each other, and then everything is just holding with minimum muscle elements. Feeling the shoulder relax, the arm, wrist, all the way to the fingertips. Feeling that the neck expand, pushes towards the sky, keeping a gentle smile on the face. And at this point, depending on the kind of exercise you do, you can either choose to softly close your eyes to get more insight, or still develop that inner perception while you keep your eyes open. So these are the basic principles we're looking for in the posture. Keeping the feet parallel, more or less shoulder width apart. The weight of the feet, we try to keep it centered as well. This will allow for the natural curvature of the sole of the foot to support the whole body and feel the general weight being on the front, the side, and the back, and the center being really at the center of the foot. That will allow the energy to properly raise from the legs into the body. The knees are always just slightly bent, with the knee always pointing in the same direction as the toe. If I can't have my feet completely parallel, which can happen for some people mostly because of hip structure, if I have to have my feet a little bit open, then I want to make sure that my knee point in the same direction when I'll be bending. If you can have them forward, it's better, but if it's a little bit open, it's fine as well. So as your knee will bend, you want to make sure they go in the same direction of the toe, and at the same time, if I take this line here as being the limit for my feet, I want to make sure that my knee don't go over the line, so that I don't put pressure on my knee. In order to do that, when I'll be bending my knees, I have to let my hip structure sit gently. If it's either tucked under, as soon as I go down, then I put too much pressure. I feel a lot of tension on the quads, and I can't really go any lower than this without bending my back and looking like an old man. So I want to make sure that my knee stay in line with the toe, allowing the hip to come and sit, and then being naturally in the straight position. You don't need to go that low. It's just to demonstrate with training. The articulation allows you to do it, but at first, just stay in a higher position is fine. As we were saying a little bit earlier, the hip structure had to be able to come and sit gently. What we're going to do now, we'll take the chairs so that you guys will do like a first side exercise of being able to sit and get back up.